So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another anniversary album review of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm again joined by Señorita Sabrosura, and we're here to talk about an album from the 90s that a lot of people will know exactly one song, and it's this album, Mazzy Star, So Tonight That I Might See. So this album is turning 30 years old on October 5. So, Señorita, how are you?
Good to be back. How are you?
I'm good. So, yes, this album, obviously, everyone has heard Fade Into You.
Ready to you.
This
Some
was a
people that's
song.
the only some people that's the only song they know.
Oh, this song was featured in a few movies. I remember it was featured in a movie, I think it was called Angus or something, where at the end they play that song in a prom. So it's
Oh
a
wow.
song that I've heard many times. But yeah, this is the band's second album, and it's an album that's turning 30 years old. So there's more to it that Fade Into You. So we'll talk about what we thought when we first heard it, uh, our favorite tracks, and what do we think about the album now, and how has it sounds 30 years later. So, Señorita Sabrosura, what were your initial thoughts of this album?
Well, I remember listening to Fading to You a lot and maybe two or three songs, but not the whole album. But I like it and revisiting. I really like this album. It's very dreamy pop, melancholy. It's a little dark, and I like it because you can see the influences of other bands in these bands like Velvet Underground, The Doors.
And it's also influenced like newer artists that we'll get into it in a little bit.
Exactly.
So, yeah, for me, like you, I remember the Fading to You music video, watching that, I think, on 120 minutes on MTV when they played music. And I think I've heard a few other songs, but I never owned this album. I never bought it when it came out, and but it's an album that I think I've heard more in the streaming ages. But for
Yeah.
me, yeah, it was always like a lot of people say Macy Star and just say Fade Into You, but this album has other hidden gems in it. And I think the lead singer, Hope Sandoval, has a very unique type of sound that has influenced, we were talking about this earlier, Lana Del Rey,
Yes.
especially her first album, Born to Die or Ready to Die. I can't
Or
remember the
to
name.
die.
Born to
Yeah.
Die. When I was listening to this, I'm like, wow, she was really influenced by the
Yeah.
music of Macy Star. Like I could totally see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when I didn't listen to this a lot when it came out, I listened to the single, and I don't know if they had another single for this on MTV, but I think I saw them also like performing some songs live, and I know that Hope Sandoval has been featured on Massive Attack songs and other bands. So, but yeah, it's a band that it was like at one time I thought they were a one hit wonder because I thought of fading to you. But as the years have gone by, I've noticed that it's like a cult band. It's a
Yeah.
band that has influenced a lot of bands, and maybe an underappreciated band.
I think so. Um, I I saw an interview from the guy from Cigarettes After Sex, and he said that this band influenced him and his band a lot too. So
No,
it's
yeah, and
it's like like you said, like a cult band. And there's this video of Macy Star performing live in October of 1994 at the Shoreline Amphitheater, and she's singing "Fading to You." I think that's the most streamed video from them.
yeah, I think so too. They had two more singles with this album. They had "She's My Baby" and "Five String Serenade." Uh, So those were the three songs that they released from this album. And sadly, it was David Roback, who was the guitar player and the main songwriter with Hope Sandoval, I think died in 2020 of some type of cancer. And after that album, they released a few more albums, but they never quite got the recognition that they had with this album. I think this is their best selling album. And obviously, they had that massive hit. So, yeah, but as you can see, none of us really listened to the whole album when it came out. Obviously, when Señorita Sabrosura told me that this album was going to turn 30, I'm like, I went to listen to it as a whole to prepare for this. And so now we're going to talk about the tracks that stood out for us in this album. So, what tracks for you
Uh,
stood out for you?
well, I really like, well, besides Fading to You that everyone likes, I really like the track that is the title album. So tonight that I might see uh that song gave me like the Doors vibes. And I think it's a great closer. I know I'm starting from the finish, but for me, it's a great closer, and it gives me like the Doors, but no so bad acid trip, like very dark. I like it. And another song that also gave me the Doors and the underground vibes, it's Mary of Silence. I listened to that song because it has my name, Mary.
Of
So,
course.
so besides Fading to You, I listened to that song Mary of Silence, and I like it. It feels like when you're listening to the song, and if you're listening in headphones, like you're in a very hazy, dark dream trip. But I like it. And another song I like, and then it's like, wait, now I know because I never understood why I like Lana Del Rey, like Bells Ring. If you put Bells Ring to a person who has never listened to Macy Star, and you ask them, is this Lana or not? They will tell you, yes, this is Lana Del Rey, but it's not. It's Macy Star. I think it's a great song.
Yeah, and I was something very interesting I was reading about the band is that Hope Sandoval likes to perform like with almost no lights. She doesn't like to be seen that much, and she has another band that she performs now. But yeah, her vocals were very distinctive. This is a very it's kind of a depressive album, if you will.
Yep.
Her voice is very melancholic. She sounds in pain, but she sounds in pain. Uh, that was the time of grunge. You have the grunge guys that are screaming and in pain, but this is like subtle pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I had a friend that he said if heroin could sing, it would be Macy Star. And
yes.
I like her voice because sometimes she can you can listen to her and it sounds like very folksy, and but sometimes sounds like very angelic, and other times sounds like very in pain, like melancholic, dark. I like that about her.
And there's a little bit of like dream pop shoegaze to some of their
Yeah,
songs
yeah.
as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. So obviously, "Fading to You" is a great track, but there's more to it when you peel the onion of the
But
songs.
what other songs did you like?
I thought the song "Wasted" is pretty interesting because it has more of like a bluesy type
Yeah,
of guitar in the intro, and that's where I felt some of the Doors influence, like you were saying. I also think a song like "Into Dust" is kind of that's one of like the more dream pop shoegazy songs of the album. Her vocals are almost like whispered in some parts of the song, which I thought was interesting. I think "Mary of Silence" is a good track. It has more of a psychedelic feel to it,
yep,
to me at least, like in the way she's singing. And I agree with Bell's Ring. That's pure Lana Del Rey there, if they haven't listened to it. And the album closer, so tonight that I might see, it's a long track. It's like 7 minutes and 19 seconds. And that one really, I think it's very atmospheric and spacey at times. And I think her voice works well with that atmospheric feel because I
Yeah.
think it gives it more of like a mysterious vibe to them, because her vocals, she never there's not a she never screams, this is not
Oh,
like a band that scream. They're more like subtle, like feelings, and she uses her angelic voice as a soothing of pain, but never like in that grunge area of like a lot of the bands back then where they had that much anger that they had to scream. Here you feel like her pain, but very subtle and almost like whispered sometimes. So yeah, I think now that I listen to it, I think they should have had more success than what they had, because it came out in 1993, but 1990, it was the year of you had Nirvana, you had Pearl
yeah.
Jam,
And you also have bands like Garbage, Cranberries,
The Breeders.
PJ Harvey, The
Mhm.
Breeders.
Yeah, well, I think Garbage, no, Garbage went in 1995, so Garbage wasn't still
Okay.
around at that time, but you had The Breeders, that had an album that turned 30 that year as well. You had Belly. There was a lot of alternative music, and and I think they were lumped in as a one hit wonder for Fading to You. But this album has more songs that I think should be like She's My Baby. I see why they used that as a single, but I would have used other tracks as well. But yes, I think it's something with this album is I think you have to be in the mood to
Yeah.
listen to this album, because if you're not in the mood, you'll be like, oh no, this all sounds like the same. But no, you have to be in the right mood to listen to this album for me. But yeah, I did enjoy it, and I think there's deeper cuts here that should be mentioned, just besides obviously the track that everyone knows. So
Exactly.
yeah, so 30 years later, how do you think this has held up?
Well, some songs, like you said, held more better than others. And I think it's not an album for everyone, and you have to be in the mood. For me, it's 3 a.m. music, like when you're feeling lonely. Uh, it's music for a trip. I really like her voice. Like I said, it's very hypnotic, angelic, folksy. It's an intriguing album. Like I like the placement of the songs. Uh, like it could be sensual without being sexual. Uh, I don't know. I like
Yeah. Well, I find it more depressing. That's it.
it.
To, to me, this
Yeah,
is an album that
but
you.
yeah, it could be seen as depressing. Like the song "Fading to You," a lot of people use that song as a love song, and that's not a love song. Like
Well,
if you read the lyrics, it's not a love song.
I have an idea for February 14th for a video based around that concept of people, uh, like taking songs and like blowing them out of proportion. I'm like, no, you shouldn't dedicate this song. But yeah, it's a song that like I told, it was used in movies, and sometimes they used it in like a prom setting and things like that. But yeah, it's a sad song. It's not a it's like an unrequited love fading to you. It doesn't seem like it's going well. But I think the highlight for me with this band, I think Hope Sandoval's voice and the guitar playing by Dave. Uh, Let me say his name correctly. David Roback. I think they were the duo. They were basically the band. The other musicians they were interchangeable, but it was, I think, their chemistry, because the way he played the guitar really went along with her voice. Like it, I think the guitar never overshadows her voice.
Yeah,
It's like a complementary. At
yeah,
least that's what I feel when I listen to this album. And I think this is a very melancholic record that obviously, if you're very sad and depressed, I would suggest to not listen to it that
No.
much. Okay, but it's very beautiful. I listen to this more earlier in the morning. Uh, but yeah, it's if you like your like rock, like the alternative rock with more grungy styles from that era, this album won't be for you. Because this is more on the dream pop, sometimes shoegaze side of things.
Yeah, I
Uh,
read it's classified as slowcore.
Slowcore. Yeah, well,
Yep.
and also it has a lot of like folkiness to it.
Yep.
But like when you read, this is cataloged as an alternative rock band. But yeah, I would say, yeah, to me it sounds like more yeah, there to me it sounds more like a mixture of they describe it as psychedelic folk, a little bit of country, dream pop, so they're all over the place. So yeah, but yeah, this was their album that was the most successful. But yeah, I think 30 years later, I think it's what you would call a cult classic. uh
Yep.
it, it has their following, and they're very respected in the community. And like I said, there's many bands that have been influenced by them. And of course, uh we now know where Lana Del Rey got her like vocal style, and even her look a little bit, because I was
Yep.
watching the Macy Star video and Hope Sandoval, and I'm like, wow, like Lana Del Rey like almost copied her look to a T, in my
Yep.
opinion. But yeah, to me, yeah, it's a solid. If you haven't listened to it, give it a chance. It's an album that it's more than one song, so you should listen to it and say for yourself. So I say 30 years later, yeah, it's a very solid record that maybe should have been bigger. So, what do you think of Macy Star? So tonight that I might see. What are your earliest memories of this record, or do you just remember Fade Into You? And if you remember Fade Into You, did you dance that with someone at a prom or somewhere, or did you dedicate it to someone who then called you and said, "You dumbass, this is not a love song to send to me," and then they broke up with you. So we would want to know. And if you like the videos that we're putting out, do not forget to subscribe to Señorita Sabrosura as well. She has videos in rock in Spanish. And our next video together is for a band that she loves, and it's Death Cab for Cutie Transatlanticism, which turns 20 years old on October 7th. So that will be our next videos for you to watch. So until next time, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on the couch,
Señorita Sabrosura.
and we'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.